The woman had fired 7 helpers in 7 days, and everyone in the hall knew it. So when she suddenly leaned forward and kissed the single dad on the cheek in front of all of them, the room froze, and every single person watching felt something break and awaken at the same time. No one knew why she did it. Not yet. But that moment would change every life in that room, including his, forever. She walked into the community employment hall like a storm wrapped in silk, heels clicking with impatience, eyes sharp enough to cut through excuses. Her name was Miranda Cole, a wealthy property developer known for her impossible standards and zero tolerance for mistakes. Assistants whispered warnings under their breath when she arrived. Everyone knew the pattern: hire, criticize, fire, repeat. She didn't yell. She didn't insult. She simply dismissed people with a cold politeness that somehow hurt more. That morning alone, 2 helpers had already been sent home, their confidence shattered quietly in the hallway. Then came Daniel Reyes, standing near the coffee table, holding a paper cup with shaking hands while keeping one eye on the clock. He was late for his second job but couldn't afford to leave early. A single dad of a 6-year-old girl, Daniel had learned how to survive on patience, not pride. When Miranda's folder slipped from her arm and papers scattered across the floor, no one moved. They'd learned better. But Daniel knelt anyway, gathering the pages carefully, lining the corners as if they mattered. He handed them back without speaking. Miranda looked at him like she always did, with scrutiny, with doubt, then said flatly, "You're hired." Temporary. People exchanged looks. Temporary meant disposable. The hours that followed were brutal. Nothing Daniel did seemed right. The coffee was too strong. The printer too slow. His posture wrong. By midday, everyone expected him to be next. And then, in front of the entire room, Miranda stopped him mid-step, stared at him for a long, quiet moment, and did the unthinkable. She leaned in and kissed his cheek. Gasps rippled through the hall. Daniel stood frozen, confused, embarrassed, and suddenly very aware of every eye on him. Miranda straightened, cleared her throat, and said softly, "Thank you for staying." And walked away. No one slept that night wondering more than Daniel did. The kiss haunted him, not romantic, not inappropriate, but heavy, like a sentence left unfinished. The next day, everything changed, yet nothing did. Miranda was still demanding. Still sharp. But she didn't fire anyone else. She asked Daniel questions, not about work, but about his schedule, his daughter, why he always checked his phone at 3:30. He told her about Sophia, about school pickups, about losing his wife to illness and learning how to braid hair from YouTube videos at midnight. Miranda listened in silence, eyes softer than before. Near closing time, a young assistant spilled water on important documents and burst into tears, bracing for dismissal. Instead, Miranda surprised everyone again. She handed the girl a towel and said, "It's fixable." Later that evening, Daniel found Miranda alone in the conference room, staring out the window. She finally told him the truth. Years ago, she had trusted helpers who stole from her, lied to her, disappeared when things got hard. Kindness had cost her millions and nearly her company. She built armor from control and fear. But when she saw Daniel kneel without being asked, careful with papers no one else valued, something cracked. The kiss wasn't impulse, it was gratitude she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Daniel didn't say much. He just nodded and said, "People stay when they're treated like they matter." Weeks later, Miranda announced a permanent team, with Daniel as operations lead. She attended Sophia's school play, awkward and unsure, clapping the loudest. And on a quiet afternoon, long after the whispers had faded, Miranda smiled at Daniel and said, "You reminded me how to be human again." The hall that once feared her became a place of growth. The single dad who expected nothing more than survival found respect. And the woman who fired everyone learned that sometimes, the strongest leaders are the ones brave enough to show kindness first. The next morning, the kiss was still the first thing everyone whispered about, but Daniel felt something heavier than curiosity pulling at him, a quiet responsibility he hadn't asked for but couldn't ignore. As he walked into the hall, he sensed eyes following him, not with judgment this time, but with expectation, as if whatever happened next depended on whether he stayed or walked away. Miranda was already there, sleeves rolled up, reviewing reports with an intensity that usually warned people to keep their distance, yet when she saw Daniel, she paused, just long enough to nod. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't warmth. It was recognition. The day tested him harder than the last. Deadlines collided. A supplier backed out. An investor threatened to pull funding unless immediate changes were made. The old Miranda would have fired someone to prove control, but instead she called Daniel into the conference room and asked, quietly, "What would you do?" The question stunned him more than the kiss had. Daniel spoke from experience, not authority, about prioritizing people before panic, about giving one chance before closing a door forever, about how fear makes mistakes louder than they really are. Miranda listened, jaw tight, then did something no one had ever seen her do. She trusted him. Together they worked through the crisis, staying late, sharing takeout on opposite sides of the table, exhaustion slowly turning into understanding. Over the following weeks, the hall changed. Helpers stopped flinching. Laughter returned in small, careful doses. Miranda still demanded excellence, but she also learned names, asked about families, noticed effort. Daniel's daughter Sophia became a familiar story in the room, her drawings pinned on a corkboard, her voice echoing through speakerphone calls when Daniel picked her up late. One afternoon, during a crowded meeting, Sophia ran in unexpectedly, clutching a handmade card. Daniel froze, embarrassed, ready to apologize, but Miranda knelt to Sophia's level and accepted the card with trembling hands. It read, "Thank you for being nice to my dad." Something broke open in Miranda then, something years of success had sealed shut. She stood, voice steady but eyes shining, and told the room that leadership without compassion was just fear in disguise. Months later, when Daniel was officially promoted, he realized the story had never been about a kiss at all. It was about seeing value where others saw risk, about staying when walking away was easier, about choosing humanity in a world that rewards coldness. As applause filled the hall, Daniel understood the truth that would stay with him forever. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is believe in someone who has forgotten how to believe in themselves.